Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change.
Yes.
So this week we have a challenge that is loosely related to current events of the royal nature. But first we are going to continue with The Good Place. We're watching new episodes as they air on Thursday nights. So the most recent one was called Best Self.
Okay.
And it just continues like reinventing itself every 5 minutes, you know? I mean...
Yes. Any of these first 2 episodes of this second half of the season, either one of them could easily have been the mid-season cliffhanger or the end of the season cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. And yet they just keep hanging. They scale the cliff and then they go and jump off another one.
They keep coming up with new cliffs and new ways to hang off them.
Yes.
So this week, this was a fun one because we had, at the beginning of the episode, Michael was saying, okay, you know, here's how we're going to get to the good place. I've invented this hot air balloon.
Yes.
And so then that gave them an occasion to sort of talk about what they thought their version of the good place was going to be like. Mm-hmm. And then later in the episode, they talked about what they thought their version of the bad place was going to be like. And there were some nice moments between the cast, you know, really talking, sharing things with each other.
Yes.
And the part where Chidi was talking to Eleanor and he said, you know that sound that a fork makes when it's in the garbage disposal and it just grinds? That's the sound in my brain all the time.
I really love Chidi. I just want to give him a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when he says he manages to make every place he goes his own personal hell. So.
Right.
Oh, man, I feel
Chidi.
you.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this was like more than... It wasn't really a laugh riot of an episode. It was really sweet.
Yeah.
And there's a really underlying sweetness in the show. And this one was just they're just hanging out and appreciating each other. It's like that friendship.
Yeah.
The building friendship theme on this thing reminds me a lot of Parks and Recreation in which things like the extremely unlikely but wonderful Leslie and Ron friendship just kept growing and getting deeper and deeper. So at the end, you could have some of those episodes you had.
Right.
And they're doing the same thing here, kind of sneakily. All of a sudden, it's a show about friends. Mm-hmm. And including Michael, presumably, unless he's going to twist another way at some time in the future. But Ted Danson is selling this version pretty hard.
He is.
So,
and that led to another moment where they gave him the human starter kit. This is full of things that I really have no use for, and they're just dumb or whatever.
Yes. And then when he says we're gonna do that most human thing of doing something that has no hope of success with tons of unearned confidence.
Right.
It's very human. Yes. I didn't say it as good as it was there, but that was fun.
Neither did I.
And yeah, so off they go allegedly to the bad place, while the set director weeps as the entire set that they've used becomes
just disappears into the void. with Janet, where Janet goes to rest.
Yes, and they used I guess it's like if you show how to marbleize a Janet in Act 1, you have to marbleize somebody in Act 3. So here we marbleized Bad Janet.
Bad Janet. Mm-hmm.
And so that was a nice callback to that thing. Mm-hmm. And so it raises a lot of questions. You know, what's going to be next? How are they going to make it through the bad place in plain sight? I was wondering, since I have so very much enjoyed the expletive translator that The Good Place had for giving us fork and shirt balls and things like this.
Right.
Presumably
You're a messy bench.
Exactly. I love all that stuff. And the fervor with which they delivered those lines has always been fun. So presumably the bad place does not have a cursing filter. So, and yet NBC still does. So,
right.
it makes me wonder how they're going to get around that in the future. Perhaps Janet just totes it with her. Perhaps Janet does not care to hear for that kind of language, and she will just filter it out. Or they've just gotten used to saying that, and that's what they say now. Over 802 iterations of themselves in many centuries. They're just saying that now. The filter's gone. That's just what comes out. That will be interesting to see. I also was, as I was thinking about this episode and them going off to see the being who will supposedly let them into the good place, I had this theory pop into my head of how this was like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, we certainly have a creature without a brain. We have a creature without courage. You could make a case for Tahani having no heart because even though she was a great philanthropist, it was all selfish out of jealousy. And Eleanor is kind of our Dorothy figure. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Yeah. I'm going to see if anybody else has thought that. And I Googled it. And of course, there were many people who've thought about this before me. So, but generally we're thinking of Michael in terms of the wizard who was supposedly great and mighty, but really just kind of a bag of hot air. But now I'm kind of thinking whoever this, they're setting off on a journey now. Right. And to see some creature that may or may not be able to give them what they want and send them to what they are thinking is home. So I wonder if this was intentional on their part because Jason and Tahani and Chidi do fit really nicely into those three parts. So I don't know what if Janet is one of the witches who just kind of floats down in a bubble from time to time, or if she's Toto, or I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where Michael and Janet fit into this scenario now as they're setting off on this new journey. But really interesting to see if that gets played up at all. I think isn't there a hot air balloon in The Wizard of Oz somewhere? Isn't that how the wizard landed where he was? No,
that's how Dorothy gets back. She has to get into the hot air balloon and click her heels and say there's no place like home.
So there you go. So it seems like they're deliberately making allusions to it. I mean, people were talking about how Eleanor wakes up in this strange place and she wants to, she doesn't really want to get home. She wants to fit in.
She wants to stay there.
She wants to stay there. She wants to become a munchkin. But there's some people were positing Vicky is the Wicked Witch of the West, and we should look to see if a house lands on her at some point. So, interesting. So I wished I could say that was it was a truly original thought in my brain that many other people had in their brain spontaneously.
They just had it at the same time as you.
Possibly because the writers had that in mind and were trying to make us think of that.
Right. It kind of backs up your theory, I'd say.
But I don't know. It seems like... what are they going to do next?
I know. That's what we say every week.
That is what we say every week. How are they going to work this? Yeah. I don't know. It could be, it could be fun.
Maybe we'll get some more Adam Scott.
That's true. That's true. They may run into him down there. Certainly they could pretty much just throw anybody down there. I don't know how they're going to do it. And what it's going to be like visually.
Right. Well, that will be exciting. So we will find that out next week. I don't know. The next. So
we don't know how long the train ride is. They could be in transit for a while. Yeah. Do they pass Mindy St. Clair's on the way, or is it in the opposite direction?
Oh, good question.
Stop in and see how she and Derek are faring with his wind chimes and his duffel bags full of cocaine.
And his cocaine. Well, we'll find out. We'll keep watching.
Yes, indeed we will. And I really enjoy it. And it continues in its track of being harder and harder to describe to somebody who's never seen it.
Yes.
I keep trying and my husband just keeps going, So.
Yeah, my husband watched the first couple of ones of the first season with me. And then he was like, I don't know. And because he never liked Parks and Rec. Like he's just terrible. So, but over Christmas, I was trying to tell my sister to get into it. And all I said was, just start at the beginning. I can't.
Don't make me describe it.
And it'll be better if you start at the beginning.
Yes, you have to take the journey to get there. And then you are very happy when you get there.
So that's on our list for next week. And then the only other thing that we watched for this week, because there was still no West Wing, was our challenge round.
Vacation for the West Wing Weekly.
So our challenge, you gave me the challenge.
Yes.
So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, as we talked about last week a little bit, you had been a little curious about Suits because of Meghan Markle, who plays Rachel on that show, is going to marry Prince Harry.
Right.
How soon is that blessed event coming up?
I believe it's in May.
Okay, so she has been much in the news, and the fact that somebody from a USA TV series is marrying into the royal family is a source of great amusement for many. And anyway, I felt a little smart because I did watch the first couple of seasons of Suits. My husband has continued to watch it. I'm not really one big for legal dramas, and as we've mentioned, I've dropped almost everything, even stuff I really, really like, just because I have too much work and not enough time to watch things.
Right.
So, but I did watch those first couple of seasons, so I picked an episode that featured her from season 2. It's called Zane versus Zane, and it's all about her and her father. You really don't need to know much about what has been going on in the series, I think, to enjoy this episode. There is a whole backstory in which Mike is, the young guy, is not really a lawyer, didn't really go to law school, is pretending. Harvey knows it, and now I think by this point, the woman who's the head of the firm knows it, various different people know it, and there's various different levels of trouble. He and Rachel were going to have a relationship, but Harvey was afraid he would tell her, and then that would be... So there's all this stuff that's gone on, but really this episode, I think, you can just come to it and kind of wonder, oh, what's that? They're talking about a secret, but not really care. So
right.
I hope you were able to follow it pretty well, and I think it gave a pretty good showcase to the future, whatever title it is she's going to have. Duchess, what do we give wives of the spare?
She probably a duchess that will be given to her by the queen when they get married.
Yes. Okay.
But I believe
a little wedding gift. Here.
Yes.
I give you a nice title.
You have a title now. So, yeah, I found I was able to follow it without a problem. And I did a little reading. You had sent me a couple things, but it wasn't critical. You know, I could just follow the story. You know, I've watched LA Law before. Yeah. So I mean, I enjoyed it as a legal drama, and USA doesn't have the curse word filter, so they can say whatever they seem to be able to say a lot of things on that show. So but
well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Coincidentally, the actor who played her father, Wendell Pierce, was also in that, what we shall call the all fork scene from The Wire that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. So he held back.
Yeah, I guess he did. That's funny.
But interesting story of father-daughter dynamics there. And, you know, tried to bring it around to the end that he was trying to protect her. But at the same time, if I were her, I would not be pleased still. That's fine, Dad, but, you know, you're driving me crazy. But the one thing I noticed about this show that I probably noticed about it at the time I was watching it, but can we talk about the women's clothing for a moment? How do they just stack the actresses up in the back afterwards? Because those don't look like sitting clothes. No. I mean, I guess they did sit some. They were behind desks and stuff, perched on the very tippy tip of the chair, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Because... man, those are some slim suits and skirts that they have, those gals. And I was actually Googling it, and there's somebody who wrote a whole blog post about it as a, you know, why do the guys get to wear nice, comfortable suits, and the women in this show, none of them is wearing a suit. They're all wearing, like, you know, cocktail attire. So, and, you know, super, super, super high heels and just, you know, buttons placed just so. And, you know, I'm not sure about that.
Right, and ladies. They're always showing them standing up and leaving so that you can get a rear view.
Yes. The costume designer of that is real proud of him herself, I guess. But yes, they're clad to within an inch of their lives, and the camera enjoys that.
Yes.
So that is perhaps unfortunate.
I thought Meghan Markle was good. I probably wouldn't have been like, oh, wow, she's the best thing about that show.
Yes.
But it was, she was fun to watch, and seeing her with her kind of sparring with her dad and what happened there. So,
yeah, she's very cute. She's good in it, but she's, it's not like it's a series that's going to wind up in a pantheon anywhere. It's a nice, serviceable USA series. It's right in their wheelhouse. It's like, it's procedurals, generic procedurals with a twist. It's like, it's a detective show, but it's a psychic detective, or it's a legal show, but the guy's not really a lawyer, or it's a doctor show, but he's practicing in the Hamptons as a freelancer, and it's a spy show, except he's been kicked out of the CIA, and now people are after him. So it's, it's so for somebody to come out of that, it's not like, somebody who is in something that is well respected. It's enjoyable. It does well. It's been around for a long time.
Right.
But it's not the sort of thing you would expect to find a future royal in.
No.
So I know people have been joking as to whether the Queen watches it, whether she can talk about the various goings on. But,
right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
But I think they were talking about that on TV Avalanche. If she could, at lunch they'll talk about what Lewis has been doing lately.
Yeah, that was a funny, B story or whatever, little comic relief of the feud between Lewis and the new lawyer. Yes.
Lewis is often on the end of a feud with somebody and oftentimes not getting the better of it.
Right.
But it's a little bit of comic relief there.
Right. And some creative pranking going on.
Yes, because it's not like this is a serious workplace.
Right. So, getting him thrown in jail for having his gold-plated nail scissors.
Enjoyable enough.
I enjoyed watching it, and in a different lifetime, I would watch more of it. If I had more hours in the day and less, TV available. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if there wasn't just so much the fire hose of TV.
That's true. Well, you can probably Google the episodes in which I think she and Mike were going to get married, and he left her at the altar because he was going to go to jail for having lied about his qualifications, and so he didn't want to tie her down. And then I think they're going to get married again at the end of the season before she leaves or something like that. So there's been a lot of talk of that. At the point of the episode we watched, she didn't know.
But at the point where she was going to marry him, she didn't know?
I think she did know then. But I think she was like, I don't care, I love you. We'll get through this. And he was like, I don't want to do that to you. Right. But it's just the things that people do on TV shows, Yeah. The noble gestures and what all. So, but I'm pretty sure they're the star-crossed romantic duo of this particular series.
Right.
Although anybody shipping Donna and Harvey probably feels like they're pretty star-crossed too. But anyway, so that was Suits. That was Meghan Markle. Now you know.
Now I know.
Got a little information in your head now when you see pictures of her.
That's right.
Some of her body of work.
Yes. Very good.
And definitely body of work in those outfits, but
absolutely. Well, we'll wait a couple months and we'll see what her wedding dress is.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. So,
all right. So what you got for me next week?
Yeah. So we are going to do, instead of watching a TV show, we'll do a podcast about a TV show.
There you go. I like those. That's how I consume most of my TV, is listening to people talk about it.
There you go. So I think I might have mentioned this on our group chat as a roundup item a while ago.
Yeah.
And that may have caught your attention, but you didn't get around to doing anything about it. So now I challenge you to do it. So the Extra Hot Great family of podcasts includes...
Heard of them?
includes this show called Little House on the Podcast, where one of their contributors, Kim Reed, recaps old episodes of Little House on the Prairie, you know, starting from the beginning, and she's into, I think it's still only in like season 2 of it right now.
Right.
And it's just her talking, you know, giving a recap, and They're only about 15 to 20 minutes long. Probably, I doubt even 20. They're nice and short, and they're described actually on their site as breathless because she just like powers through the whole thing. She just starts talking, and she's very funny, and just, you know, she's like, and I have a question about, you know, life on the prairie. Like, you know, why don't they have this, or why wouldn't they have that? So she's very funny. So I picked out a couple episodes for you to listen to, and I listen to these. I definitely don't go back and watch the shows, you know, the Little House on the Prairie shows. I'm just listening to the podcast for entertainment. You know, I have watched these shows, but it was like 30, 40 years ago. So, but sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this episode when she's talking about it. So I picked for you the episode called Trash Panda from May 30th, 2017. This is Laura keeps a pet raccoon in the barn.
And have family members who have a pet raccoon, so that will be particularly fun.
Yeah, so that one, and a more recent one from December called Time for Little Amputation on the Prairie. This is from December 12th, 2017. So
so we'll put links to those on the show notes, right?
Yeah. Okay. So check those out. It won't take you too long. And if you're inspired to listen to any more, hey, you can do that too. So,
I'm looking forward to that. I have heard of that podcast and thought, you know what, I should listen to that. And then I look at my queue of 50 podcast episodes and think, maybe not.
Well, they're nice and short. So
yes, that is a good thing.
Yeah. So for next week, we'll watch The Good Place. The episode is titled Rhonda, Diana, Jake, and Trent. So these are like all new names, I think.
Alrighty. Well, okay.
And we should be able to return to the West Wing. I believe it's called Holy Night, right? The next episode we're waiting for.
Oh, I know that episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a Toby episode.
And of course, the West Wing Weekly podcast that goes with it.
Yes.
And these other podcasts that we are talking about. So that's going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Bye, Terry.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.